You always want to know why you are arguing with someone. You always want to make sure that the argument that you are having, whatsoever it may be, is worthwhile, that something is being achieved by you arguing with someone. There's nothing worse than arguing with someone for no clear reason or no clear goal, okay? Because arguing with whomever, in whatever circumstances or whatever the reason may be, it takes a lot out of you. There's a lot of wear and tear, emotional wear and tear of you. Yeah? I mean, I don't care how tough you are or whatever. You get into an argument with somebody, right? And it gets a little heated and you're like scrambling to come up with reasons and arguments and just really going at it with somebody else, right? It's going to wear you down. It's going to be an expenditure of emotional capital to go out and have an argument with someone. If you have an argument with somebody, you better be damn sure that there is something to be gained by this argument. Because if there's nothing to be gained by having this argument, then you are expending all of this time and energy and emotional capital for nothing, for no return on the investment. There are a lot of guys who just go out and argue with people. They go out and argue with people for no goddamn reason, okay? My old man was like that. He would argue with everyone over every little trivial, piddly little thing, yeah? I mean, really just outrageous arguments that retrospectively, it just makes me cringe, you know? It's just so pathetic, right? But, you know, it was because of hang-ups of his own, right? He was really expressing frustrations that he had in other aspects of his life, his own past, the circumstances that he was living and what have you. It was other reasons that was fueling him to argue, okay? But the thing is, of course, that he was bright as he was, and he was an exceptionally brilliant man. Bright as he was, he did not have the introspection, the self-knowledge to recognize a lot of times when he was arguing with some random person, he wasn't arguing with them. He was really sort of like arguing with somebody who wasn't around. He was arguing with his own past or arguing with his own circumstances. Often as not, he was arguing with himself over the unhappiness and frustration of his life. You see what was going on? Yeah, it was goddamn sad, retrospectively thinking about it. Yeah, but that's a personal parenthesis on my part. It's not really important for this conversation. In this conversation, you want to be thinking to yourself why you are arguing with somebody. And you want to identify precisely the reason you are arguing with the person in front of you, okay? You get into an argument with whomever, okay? It could be a classmate, it could be a professor, it could be your boss, a coworker, an underling, it could be the taxi driver, anyone that you ever have any kind of dispute or argument with. You want to understand, as soon as you take that mental step of leaping into this argument, you want to know what is to be gained by this argument. Say, like when I was in college and studying philosophy, I would get into arguments with all kinds of people in my classes, right? Because I was struggling to understand what I thought, you see? Because, like, you know, anybody who can tell you this, anybody who studies philosophy can tell you this, that it's very hard to just sit there and crank out what you think and just figure it out on your own. It's very, very difficult. It's actually much easier to be arguing with somebody that you don't necessarily agree with, and you argue with that person, and by way of that argumentation, you hone in on what you actually think. Okay? And so having an argument in those circumstances, like in philosophy, for instance, is actually a very beneficial thing because it'll help you figure out and close in on what you think, which is, of course, what you want. Okay? And that kind of argumentation is actually healthy. Okay? But that's an exception. Okay? When you want to figure out what you actually think and you're arguing with people, that is one thing, and that is supposed to happen in universities. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen anymore in universities because universities now, you know, you start arguing with anybody and they throw a little hissy fit, like a little, oh, how pathetic, you know. They have basically outlawed having any kind of argument, intellectual conversation in universities. And so, you know, I don't know what to tell you if you're in university, you know. You're not going to be able to have the arguments that I used to be able to have because now it's not allowed because everybody is too damn fragile, right? Anyway, but when you have an argument with, say, somebody you work with, either your boss or an underling or a peer or whomever, right? You better know what is to be gained by it. You never argue with somebody for no reason, okay? And the reason cannot be the specific issue at play, okay? It cannot be that you really want to get your way insofar as this is concerned. No. If you are going to argue with somebody, you better know what you're going to be getting out of it, what the effects are of that argument, okay? Because you're going into conflict with no objective. What's the point of that? I'm realizing as I'm doing this video that I might be making it a little bit too abstract, so let's make it a little bit more concrete and really specific, okay? Two situations. See, on the one hand, you're in a cab that's stuck in a traffic jam. And on the other hand, you arrive at a hotel where they screwed up your reservation, which actually happened to me quite recently, but I'll get into it. You see, you're in the cab, and you're stuck in a traffic jam. And maybe it's because the taxi driver took the long path. Instead of going through the side streets, he decided to take the highway, and the highway is just, a parking lot, right? What is the point of arguing with him then? You're stuck in the traffic jam. Will arguing and bitching and moaning and having a confrontation with the taxi driver get you out of that situation? Huh? Will it improve your situation, having an argument with a taxi driver? Huh? Taxi driver, why did you take the highway? Why didn't you take the side streets? Blah, 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 blah. Will that fix the situation? Yes or no? The answer, of course, is no. It won't change anything. Yeah, you can bitch and moan and complain and argue with a cab driver till you're blue in the face, and it's not going to change the fact that you're stuck in a traffic jam. But say you go to a hotel, and they have screwed up your reservation, right? And you arrive there, and you present them your credit card and your tip. We always tip the hotel booking agent, like I said in this video. You tip the guy with your credit card, and he zips your card and he starts looking for you, and it's all screwed up, or they put the wrong dates, or whatever the hell happened. They've done it and they screwed it up, right? Okay, what do you do then? Well, then you argue, of course, because the booking agent can actually do something for you. See? You argue with the guy and say, no, my reservation was not for next month, it's for this month, and I have a printed confirmation here that says right there that it's the correct date. Yeah, you guys screwed it up. You guys don't have my room, and I paid for this room, and I have the written confirmation that it's for these dates. So how are you going to fix it? You see my point? See, because the booking agent, he's got the computer right in front of him. And he can actually change something for you, right? The taxi driver in the middle of the traffic jam, he can't do anything. He can't sprout wings and fly you away from the traffic jam. No. But the booking agent at the hotel, yes, he can. And you know how he can fix the situation? By kicking you upstairs to a suite, which is what fucking happened to me. Yay, coach. Yeah, and I got kicked upstairs to a really beautiful suite, one of the deluxe suites. Yeah, it cost a fucking fortune when I looked it up online, but it doesn't matter. The point is, see, I got kicked upstairs to this incredible suite, right? And I was paying, instead of paying what it was like 900 euros a night, I was paying, like 150 euros a night for the regular room, right? Because they screwed up because I argued with the guy who actually could change something. See? That's the point. If the guy you are arguing with can change the situation, then you argue with him. But if he can't, what's the point? A lot of guys do this. They argue with somebody who, even if they had all the goodwill in the world to help you out, right? They can't do anything for you because it's beyond their power. And the guy argues with this powerless individual, thinking that by venting his frustration and arguing with the person, he'll improve something. He won't. Why? Because the taxi driver cannot sprout wings on the taxi cab. Simple as that, okay? And so you have to recognize in what circumstances you are in where arguing with somebody will change the situation or arguing with them will not. You have to know why you are arguing with someone. You also have to know when to argue with them. Because sometimes it's a bad idea to argue with somebody in public or where there are other people around. You gotta hold your horses and wait for the opportune moment. Because sometimes, you can wind up arguing with somebody at a very, very inopportune moment, and it will not only not get you what you want, but also it will make you look bad. Again, returning to my old man. who he was a source of a lot of negative examples in my life, a lot of things of what not to do in life. He would sometimes have arguments, really just go to town on somebody in front of other people. And those other people would look at my old man. And I remember seeing people looking at him, thinking that he was a complete and utter asshole, and they wanted nothing to do with him. And they would try to limit their interaction with him as much as possible, which they did. Or else they'd fuck him over because they thought he was such a colossal dick that he deserved to be fucked over, which they did. Yeah, I mean, that happened all the time because my old man would argue in places, in situations, in the when of the equation, at the wrong fucking place, at the wrong fucking time. And sometimes he was even right, even when he was justified. And he would have these arguments in front of the wrong people. Not necessarily people above him. No. People on his level or below him. Okay? And they would create a bad reputation for him that hounded him for years. Be smart. Don't be like that. Being argumentative, being very confrontational is something that I've spent a lot of my time trying to control, because I tend to be very confrontational. I tend to be very argumentative. I like, getting my way. I like getting my way. Well, we all like getting our ways, right? But I like getting my way, and sometimes I am more than happy to go to town on somebody to get my way. And sometimes that has backfired on me, okay? Yeah, because sometimes I was a little bit too much like my old man, right? Now I'm 51, this is not so much the case anymore. Now I can manage that a lot better, okay? I wish I'd been thinking about this when I was young. That's why I'm doing this video, yeah? I wish I'd been thinking about this shit when I was 26, because it would have saved me a lot of emotional wear and tear, okay? And I can think about specifically this one moment. Okay, this was back in 99, I think, maybe 2000. I was traveling to Europe, and I was at Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam. Well, where I live now, as a matter of fact. But at the time, I didn't live there. At the time, I was just passing through. At the time, I was taking a KLM flight from Munich back to New York, and they lost my bags. Okay, a big deal, right? They lost my bags, and I'm there at the counter with the airline agent, some woman there, right? Yeah, typical blonde Dutch woman. She was very helpful. She was trying her best, right? And I was arguing and just bitching her out, and just being a colossal prick, right? And it was a lot of wear and tear. And I remember that incident. It happened 20 years ago, roughly, right? And I was just being a complete jerk. And see, this woman could not do anything for me, see? I mean, she didn't have any kind of control over my bag. My bag was either in Munich or on some other plane, and eventually it would arrive. Eventually I'd get it. And there was no real importance in me getting it or not, see? And yet I was arguing with her. And I remember that event very clearly. It was a trivial event, Nobody whom I ever saw again saw me, because this was, there were other people. And I could feel other people thinking that I was a dick. And I could feel myself just getting tired and exhausted by me having this argument with this poor woman. And I could see in her face that this poor woman wanted to help me as best she could, but she couldn't. It was just beyond her power. And there I was, complaining and being a dick, arguing and all the rest of it. I so regret that. I so regret that because later when I left, right, and eventually caught my flight and got back to New York, and even till the next morning when somebody from the airline dropped over my suitcase at my apartment, right? I felt guilty. That was a thing that really gnawed at me. I felt guilty for having been so unpleasant to this woman who had no power. She was just working as hard as she could. She had no power to change anything. And I'd been a complete and colossal dick. And that has weighed on me for 20 odd years. I can remember this woman very, very clearly. I can remember, the look of her face, and I realized that I was just one of countless assholes that she probably had to deal with with the exact same situation. And probably there were other guys who were much bigger assholes than me, who were saying all kinds of worse things that I could ever dream of saying, or that I would dare say, quite frankly. I'm sure that that poor woman has had that experience, because all airline people have had that experience. But be that as it may, the point is, see, the guilt of me acting like that and arguing and getting nothing out of it. It was just spinning my wheels. The guilt, and also the embarrassment, because it was really reflecting my helplessness, my powerlessness in the situation. I recognize a lot of times that people will argue and bitch and moan and complain and yada yada blah 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 blah, because they are powerless, and they fundamentally recognize this. Huh? Never argue without cause. Always know why you are arguing with someone. Always know what you expect to get from an argument if you decide to get into the argument. And if there's nothing to be gained from the argument, then take a step back and relax. And don't be dumb. Be smart. Be smart. Your emotional energy, your emotional capital is finite. But guilt and feeling bad about how you behaved, that's forever.